Hi, how are you?
I'm good. It's good to be here.
How's it going today? How was your day?
It's good. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I've been excited about it. It's nice. Thanks for having me on.
Mike, I haven't seen you I think last time I saw you was when I was still at Karim. And I think that was probably 2016-ish when we probably met the first time. A lot has happened since.
You've had kids?
I have 2 girls.
Yeah.
Life got real very quickly. Nobody warned me, but yeah, it's a blessing. It's amazing. How about you?
Good. Lots happened since 2016.
Yeah,
it's been busy. I'm very well. I'm really good. I'm enjoying. We're shooting I think we can say we're just before Christmas, aren't we? So we're looking forward to
the Christmas episode.
The Christmas episode.
Mariah Carey's going to walk in right now.
I'll try and figure that out. Maybe we can just play the song. That's about as far as we can go.
We don't have the rights.
I didn't bring my Santa's hat. I need my Santa's hat. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
It's good. It's all good.
This is Duckit. So Duckit is a podcast that is supposed to be kind of honest, supposed to get a different perspective, one that's not necessarily about your profession specifically or what you do for a living. More kind of figuring out what Mike has to teach us, what Mike has learned along the way, and maybe some of his personal opinions. And that's kind of the things that we want to get into today.
It's quite daunting.
Yeah.
Put me on the spot.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's why it's called Duckit.
I think it's people get really nervous about that, don't they? About honest conversations and
I think specifically here
about their, it's that great challenge everybody has between their work persona and their personal persona, and how much do you show, how much do you tell, and how honest are you in both environments? It's a really interesting. I think a lot of people duck it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think my biggest kind of challenge throughout, I'd say, my career, my personal life, is how much do you blend the two worlds? Do you wear your emotion on your sleeve? Should you wear your emotion on your sleeve? Mm. And on that, I mean, how have you been kind of running it? How have you decided to mix the pro and the personal?
Definitely, I probably lean towards the honesty side, so being fairly transparent and fairly open, to a fault sometimes.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's served me fairly well in terms of an open book.
Yeah.
How having perspectives that are honest and the sort of perspectives and values that you kind of have in your personal life, I believe you have to carry them in your working life. And I think finding not going too much into work, but finding organizations that match up with your value system. I think I would have liked to have figured that out earlier. I probably figured that out quite late. I think a lot of people figure this out quite late. I'd like to have known how important that was earlier. And that, when you realize that, it helps you make good decisions, I think.
I mean, we have to say that notion is rather new. I mean, the notion that my personal values should match my organization's values is relatively new, right? So I think when I started working, it wasn't even a consideration. I never thought about, when I first got onto the job market, does this company represent my values? It was more like, will it pay me, my living,
Yes, that is a good point.
And if anything, maybe will I learn something that was the probably extreme expectation?
Yeah.
Would they put me in an environment where I can learn? But yeah, the whole notion of, is this where I want to be? Does it match my values? Does it speak to my honesty? Is relatively new. And you've been in Dubai now 16 years, you said.
Yeah, UAE 16. I was in Abu Dhabi for 6-7 years, and then now I've been 10 years now. So it's a long time in the UAE and the region. It's been great, and it's been wonderful.
And how much would you say on the question of values, organizations, having a voice, being kind of sharing an opinion? How much of that in your mind has it evolved? Because I grew up in Saudi Arabia, and I can tell you, it's massively evolved. And so today I feel much more comfortable being transparent, open, honest in a professional environment than I did before. And based on your experience, I'd be really curious. Do you feel that that's evolved since you've been here?
I think it's evolved in certain sectors. I think there's still a lot of work to be done in other sectors, certain areas. I think, I've always found it's a really difficult topic. How honest can you be, at work, there's a professionalism. Honesty sometimes can be emotional. It can be sometimes irrational, and it can be sometimes sporadic and inconsistent. And I think, how do you balance those things out? And I think companies, organizations are ultimately a bit nervous about that, right? And that's with good measure. And as you go up the ranks in companies, and I've been fortunate enough to fly fairly close to the sun in some of these big companies.
Yeah.
Honesty and transparency are things that can be a little bit nerve-wracking. But the companies that do embrace it and support their teams and encourage that sort of openness, I think, are the companies that have been most successful in terms of retention and keeping people motivated and things like that.
And you've worked for a few companies. Were there some organizations where you felt more at ease than others? Is it societal, or is it cultural to those brands, in your opinion?
For me, it's per company. I think it differs depending on the organization you're in. I think you can't apply it as a cultural national thing. It can't. Sure. It's not a UAE thing or a Saudi thing or a Bahrain thing or a UK thing.
It's a brand by brand.
Yeah, it's brand by brand, government by government, sector by sector. And I think often there people say multinationals are more forward thinking culturally than government. Well, sometimes it's the other way around. So it really varies. I've been fortunate, to touch wood. I've got this. That pretty much everywhere I've worked have been really positive in terms of that aspect of honesty and transparency and empowering people to actually have an honest conversation at work about things that they're feeling, and then acting on that and actually making people feel that opinion's been heard and recognised. So I've been pretty lucky, I think, in that respect.
Me too. I think my career has been shaped by organizations that gave me a chance to have a voice.
What was that like as a startup back in what was that, early days, right?
I mean, oh my God, we were super empowered. Yeah, super empowered.
Yeah.
And I today realize how lucky
you've brought that in. Has that held you in good stead?
I mean, it's set the blueprint of how to build a successful culture that in turn build a successful organization. So I've seen the impact that it had. On growth, on collaboration, on building a brand that's sustainable, and that the honesty was required. You can't fake culture. You can't. And so it was a great learning, and it's pulled me through, I think, my career in the Middle East. Absolutely. I always wanted to ask you this question because I thought you were kind of well placed. Professionally, you had roles that were quite cultural. Right. Well, the music business, etc. And you were exposed to artists, to labels, to distribution, etc. And on a personal level, art and culture is always subjective. Right. So I have a taste, you have a taste. I might like.
I like your taste. You got some good out here.
I love country music. I don't know if you like country music. I love hip hop. I love R&B. I love French music, and it's quite. And Dubai is full of multiple different tastes. I always wondered, how does somebody in that industry serve the breadth and depth of that, right? It's super complex. And then every geography around it is completely different again. So if I were to change the cultural tastes of let's say, Dubai versus Riyadh versus Cairo versus Amman versus Lebanon, and then versus your own tastes. So I always wondered, when you're in that role, how do you not allow your own honest, objective tastes of music impact what you do? And then, because naturally, like, how I feel about something creatively will impact a creative pitch for one of my clients. I think that this is pretty or this is impactful, but it's super subjective based on my experience, based on my perspective. And it naturally impacts what I deliver. And I always wondered, somebody who had done what you did, how do you then build that Chinese wall so it doesn't impact the product that you serve? So on a personal level, to reframe that, how do you not let your personal tastes impact what you deliver to your audience?
It's a really good question. The specific experience was at Sony Music. And if you imagine, if you go back to 2014, I was at Flash in Abu Dhabi. We built that business, 150 shows, UFC, FIFA, lots of really amazing work. Very proud of the work the team did there. And I was a small part of that. And we did the Rolling Stones show, and that was my last show. And then I moved to Dubai to I got the massive opportunity at 35 years old to run Sony Music for the Middle East and Pakistan as well. So imagine, I'm, as you can see, a 6'3" Yorkshireman, had been in the region 6-7 years, worked in London in music. My wife had worked for Sony Music back in the day, very familiar with the industry, but ultimately not Arabic, not from Pakistan, not from Bahrain, not from Saudi, not from UAE, not from any of these places. Yeah. The fascinating thing was then going, right, the challenge was very clear. The objective was set, it was build market share, very clear goal, which was great, because actually that's what you need in organizations that size, just have a very clear purpose. And so actually my profile benefited me, because ultimately a few things happened. First of all, I don't understand the lyrics, the words of songs, of Arabic songs, right, at the time. So essentially, I could not make a personal decision on whether I liked a song or didn't like a song.
So you were unbiased by default.
Yeah. The second thing was understood melody and understood image, understood brand, right? So was able to be informed personally on whether the melodic beat and the style of the song was something that I liked personally. So there was a personal element to it. But what I was able to do was go, first of all, these are massive gaps in my skill set. We need to hire people that are really good at that. So that's what we did. Yeah. And we need to start to listen to the market a lot more and try and understand what consumers, music fans, consumers are listening to in these markets. And the beauty of being at a company of Sony's size was there were so many tech tools and dashboards and partners available to us to access data and access information about that. And of course, we were working closely with all the streaming services. Yeah. So we're able to bring in a really smart digital director, really smart analysts, really smart teams on the A&R side. And that, that enabled us to build an A&R business and to sign Hamahi and to do joint venture deals and launch a new record label and build our market share and build our catalog and acquire catalogs in Egypt. And we were able to, in a relatively short space of time, build a pretty strong Arabic music business, which hadn't existed in 2014. In fact, there were only a handful of Arabic staff at the company, in fact. So it was a benefit. It was a benefit. And if I apply that to a social setting, it's like being in a room with all of your friends, all your girlfriends, and they're all talking about a topic that you actually have no knowledge of whatsoever, right? You're able to just lean on them to piece together the information to allow you to make a decision. Maybe it's about you want to buy something for your wife, or you're not sure what the trends are, and you canvass opinion because you don't have a personal perspective on it. So there's you can see how not being from the region can benefit. And that's why I think you see really successful CEOs on some very big Arabic businesses in the region that are not from the Middle East and they don't speak Arabic, because they're able to make non-judgmental, culturally judgmental perspectives. They're able to look at things fairly objectively. And if they're smart leaders and they're good at hiring good people and empowering them properly and trusting them, then all of a sudden you've got a really effective leader at the top, great in business, great in all the technical skills that are needed to run a Sam Barnett at NBC, for instance. But they're empowering really good directors from Lebanon and from Egypt and wherever they may be to run their channels and run their content. And I think that's a really interesting way I would answer that. So I think it helped.
So I also worked a bit in the media business. I had a short stint at OSN. I led all their marketing.
Merger with OSN Plus and Ngami. What's your view on that?
My view, I mean, listen, I think anything that can bring together a stronger offering, corroborate resources, creativity, reach, I think is good for everyone. I am excited to see what will happen on a consumer adoption level. Like, are consumers ready to kind of have a music platform and a content platform in one place, or are they accepting of having kind of that type of of a collaboration, and I'm really curious what happens to Anrami and what happens to OSM Plus if they stay two separate entities but share, let's say, their libraries. Like, what does that do collectively as a whole? Is that a net plus or a net negative? I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see what plays
on
out.
a consumer level. I'm curious. I'm not convinced, but I'm hopeful. On an organizational level, I think it totally makes sense.
Yeah,
collecting resources in this business, in this industry, I think is good because it is a very difficult business in terms of margins, in terms of operating costs. It's a very difficult business. So anything that can bring together resources and make them stronger, I think is very good.
I agree.
Not to mention global competition. How do you differentiate? How do you stand out? What's your value proposition versus the next guy?
Yeah.
And so I think it's generally good. I was really happy to hear that. But I'm curious how it's going to play out. I'm really curious. Now, it was really interesting to hear you say that, like, today you have a lot of, let's say, non-Arabic leaders that have been able to, let's say, empower and drive local content and local creation and all that stuff. But for a very long time, I felt like there was a very big void in the region in terms of cultural, like, anything, arts and culture in general. I didn't feel like we were producing societally as a region.
There's still that problem.
Yeah.
There's still that problem. If you think about something like, if you think about Spotify or Angami, think about Angami, for instance, there's only 2 or 3% of the entire catalogue on Angami is Arabic, yet it drives 80% of the consumption. The problem in the region is production. So there's not enough content being produced. There's not enough music being produced. There's not enough TV content, film content.
Why is that?
There just isn't enough. And I think that's down to funding. It's down to infrastructure. It's down to the commercial model off the back end. How do people get paid? It's about the fact that is there a big enough, to your point before about is there a big enough audience to pay for that content? And that's why it's encouraging to see recently things like the Warner Brothers Discovery deal with OSN. There's been some interesting licensing deals done and some commissions. Arabic Shark Tank from Sony Pictures. They just commissioned that with Dubai TV. So it's great to see that, but it is still very light. And I think that's something that the technology has now caught up. Everybody's mobile, everyone has subscriptions, people can access content, everyone understands streaming, they understand the mechanics of it. Now we need the production side to ramp up. In fairness, markets like the UAE and Saudi Arabia, and of course always Egypt, they're a production huge. They're the dominant force. Absolutely. But the GCC is now starting to see real government investment and government stroke private sector investment in local and Arabic content. Abu Dhabi have done a great job over the years in that respect as well. So you hope it catches up. That's on the film and TV side. On the music side, there's a long way to go. Yeah, a long way to go in terms of more infrastructure support, more production support, more studios for artists, ability for artists to actually make music at a high enough quality level that global services will accept it and feel it and feel it's worth playlisting and pushing. And I think that's where, when I was at Sony, we made massive investments exactly in that, is to drive it. And it's great to see Warner and Universal doing some big deals, big acquisition deals, such as Canawat, to help ramp up that investment. We just need more now, because it's a very rich musical region and there's a huge amount of talent in Iraq and in Afghanistan and in Pakistan and in all of the territories, the Algeria, Tunisia. I mean, the North African hip hop scene is driven largely by Morocco, but there's unbelievable talent in these markets where, unfortunately, there's no one on the ground. There's no infrastructure support. So, it's left to DIY bedroom production, and sometimes the quality of that, the ability for that to
can't scale.
Well, it's difficult, right? You're fighting in a very big pond. So we need to see more music coming through for sure. It's a really big, important aspect, I think, for the culture.
I want to pivot a little bit. I wanted to ask you, and I kind of end up asking a lot of people this question. One, are you doing today what you thought you'd be doing 20 years ago, 15 years ago?
No way. No chance. No, I never thought I'd be. I mean, look at it. It's crazy. It's kind of everything in my career has been instinctive. Nothing's been strategically planned. I am not a There hasn't been a big grand plan. It's always been about intuitive decisions. My career has gone, 5 years, 3 years, 6 years, 9 years. Yeah. So it's just been literally 3 decisions.
Yeah.
3 decisions and 4 companies. And they've always been fairly instinctive. The decision to come here to Abu Dhabi was completely instinctive, based on a phone call in China.
I mean, I'm notoriously known to literally change every single thing in my life every 5 years.
Yeah, is that your thing?
It's almost. It's slowed down since I had kids and I got married.
Well, when you have kids, you can't change everything, Christian. You do have limits.
I do have responsibilities. But I've notoriously changed, I would say, a huge portion of my environment.
Partners specifically.
My kids. Okay, and on that, I remember, when I first got into the workforce and started building my career, I had this vision of what success was going to look like. There was
what did it look like? Yeah,
it had a number attached to it.
Okay.
It had a lifestyle attached to it. It had had a specific car in the garage. You know how shallow and naive you are when you're that young. And today I look at my life.
Now we're just naive, right?
We have to be to continue. We know too much. And so I wonder, if you could speak to yourself, 20 years ago, what would you tell them based on your experience so far about how and where to invest your all your energy, your heart, your blood, sweat, and tears? What have you learned, and what would you say to yourself, your 20-year younger self, in terms of what you've learned so far about what's important, what's not important, personally, professionally?
It's a really good question. I think people come up with fairly cliched answers on that one, right? There's a great toilet book, Letters to Myself. Elton John wrote a great letter to himself. People should read that book because it's a brilliant. The celebrities all came together and they all wrote their different letters. I think someone asked me at a conference couple of years ago this question, and I just said honestly, and just don't change. Stay instinctive. Be kind to the people around you, and listen more. That's basically very simple. At heart, I think we're fairly simple beasts. I think we can confuse things. I think if you keep the people that are close to you, keep them as close as you can. I think be kind, and I think trust when something feels good. I think you'll be fairly great in life.
Can you describe instinct?
Yeah, so instinct is a feeling, and it isn't instant. Okay, so it's something that, for me, it can be something that is with me for weeks and weeks and weeks, months before I decide. It almost builds, it can build, right? And so a lot of the things that I've done haven't happened literally. I think about it at 1 o'clock, and at 5 o'clock I make the decision. Often these things have just stayed within me somehow as this kind of positive ember that's kind of burns inside of me, going, actually, hang on a second, this is something that I can't resist anymore, and I think we need to do this. And I say we because my partner's been with me for 20 years, 22 years, and 21 years. And so a big part of my life has been the decisions we've made. And so that naturally isn't instinctive, because when you have someone with you, they don't respond to things in the same timeline as you. So, that's also been a learning for me, is sharing a decision with somebody that's close to you, as close as that.
Yeah.
The decision won't happen quickly. So in a way, the way I see instinct, the way it's a slow burn, has been perfect, because it allows my partner to catch up, to kind of feel the things I'm feeling, if that makes sense. Whether it be purchasing our first flat, whether it be moving to Abu Dhabi, whether it be moving to Dubai, whether it be having a child, whether it be, investing, whether all the different things that you go through in life have been instinctive, but it's been with a partner in mind.
And you're emphasizing kind of letting things develop, letting decisions kind of come to their own kind
Well,
of
everyone's in a
conclusion.
rush, Christian.
Yeah.
Everyone's in a rush to make decisions. Everybody. Everything's fast. Let's move quick. Let's move at pace. And I think in your social life, you don't do that. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And work is the same thing, right? So you've got to let things breathe. You've got to let ideas stay with you for a while, right? And don't, my advice is for people not to rush things. The best things could take a year.
It's crazy. Like, my mind is having a lot of issues with what you're saying. I want to move faster. My instinct is to always make decisions faster.
So I spent 20 years. I spent from. If you
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying, my natural reaction is to be.
You met me in my 30s, and I was pretty hectic. My 20s was like 10 times that, and now it's like no, it's not that. I've realised, and I think if people tune in, a lot of previous team members will be like, thank God he's slowing down.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes that puts a lot of pressure on your teams as well, when you're moving that fast and you want things to be rapid. And I think going back to the personal side, you've got to slow down. You've got to let things sit and germinate and let your subconscious and share it with other people and let their feedback germinate a little bit before you make decisions. And it's taken, I'm 46, so it's taken me a long time to realize that. And I've made so many mistakes from making very fast judgments and fast decisions. Honestly,
I don't disagree. Some of the best things that ever happened to me took the longest time to
definitely
come to fruition. Right.
I think if you stacked them all up, you would find there was a consistent thread that the best things that you've done took time. Well, took significantly longer than the worst decisions you made. I think we know that the worst decisions generally are made quickly, right? Speed is also is a problem, and I think in companies or in social life, personal life, that's something I've realized last few years.
Do you believe that there is, and I'm going to have a bias in the way that I ask you the question, but do you believe that there's such a thing as a bad decision?
It's a good question. No, I don't think there's a bad decision, because I think mistakes, you learn from those. I know it's a cliche, but you do. I think there are obviously bad things that there's bad decisions. You could have made better decisions, but there's bad in terms of criminality and things.
Sure. Right and wrong out of the question.
Yeah, in terms of if you take the law out of the question and the other things, then it's about learning from, reflecting on things and learning from those decisions that had an impact either on a relationship or had an impact on your mental health or your physical health or your work life, or that's, I think, how to assess the word bad, right? It's like, look back on when you've done something quickly, sporadically, or that's had an impact on someone or something. And there's definitely that for sure. We all make them.
And so today, let's imagine a scenario. You land in Dubai. You just got here, but you have the wealth of learning and experience that you've had over 16, 20 years of the region. But you're just landing fresh in Dubai, but you have all that experience. What industry do you go into? What kind of role do you kind of pursue as Mike? What do you do now? Do you go back into the music business? How do you? What kind of a career do you kind of pursue? Does anything change now with all this retrospect? All this learning?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I probably would work more in sustainability and do a lot more for community and sustainability. I'm getting involved in a really exciting sustainability project, which I'm going to talk about in January.
Okay.
So I think with age and experience, I would probably not go after the money and the title and the profile, and I would look at trying to do things with.
Is that because your values and how you prioritize things?
Well, I think the world's changed. The world's changed since 2007, and I think with COP and with lots of things that have been going on in the region in terms of sustainability and the environment, and
it's flagrant now. You need to do it.
And I think I would probably come in and go, I've got 16 years experience in the Middle East, but I'm new to Dubai, and actually I can apply all that and do something good, and be part of that mission. And I don't need as much money as I thought I needed to live actually, because actually it's not about that. It's about doing something that you feel passionate about, that's worthwhile, and that you can just sustain, that my kids can stay in the same schools and enjoy the lifestyle, but, you know, without kind of chasing, you know, like I said before, like, you know, not chasing that title and that seniority and the salary and all the things that come with that.
I think that's a really interesting statement.
It's intoxicating. That is intoxicating when you first come here.
Yeah.
The pursuit of those things. And to be fair, UAE does set itself up to pursue that. And I think it's even more so now since COVID, with all the money in Dubai and everything that's going, it's like almost on steroids in terms of that pursuit of.
Yeah, I wanted to emphasize on that
materialistic pursuit, which I have no issue with people doing that whatsoever. But I just think it comes at a bit of a cost.
It's not as rewarding as you think it is.
Well, it came at a cost to me, so from my perspective.
And I want to emphasize on that a little bit. Dubai is one of those 10, 20 global cities that is thriving, that is, you know, tons of opportunity, lots of great talent, attracting, you know, great brands, great organization, great people, etc. And as an outcome, like many large cities, it's becoming more and more expensive to live in. And to your point of, you know, follow your passion more. Unfortunately, our society, global society, you know, passion and income don't correlate. You know, they're not parallel lines, not natural parallel lines. You're super blessed if you can be super passionate about what you do, but also make a great living. They're not always correlated. And I think Dubai has gotten to a place where the cost of living has become quite high, and the ability to have a choice to pursue passion projects is becoming more and more difficult unless you have that financial cushion, right? So I don't know, a 25-year-old who moves to Dubai who wants to get into sustainability and work for an NGO in the region won't make a salary that is competitive vis-a-vis working for an FMCG or working for, you know, a big family business, et cetera, et cetera. And so, you know, Dubai, like many large cities, I don't think it's unique to Dubai, is at a position now, I feel, where having that choice to follow a passion is becoming more and more difficult because you need to counterbalance it with an ability to sustain your living here. I have two kids. I have a household. So cost of living is getting more and more and more and more expensive. As we know, last couple of years, rent has almost doubled, right? How do you kind of, when you navigate your career on a personal basis, based on your experience, how do you balance passion and kind of, let's say, I would say financial freedom?
It's a good question. I mean, I've been lucky that I've worked in I've managed to make a living out of my passion, which is working with, it's not so much music, it's actually just working with creative people within the creative economy, whether it be in Abu Dhabi, London, Dubai with Sony, you know. So I'm a bit of a skewed answer, really, because I've always felt I've been doing what I'm passionate. Disconnect
never existed.
Yeah, I mean, it's like since a kid, it's intoxicating working with musicians and producers and artists and designers. It's intoxicating to me. I you know, because I lack all of those skills. I find it incredibly intoxicating and attractive, and I love it. It's great. But as you get more senior, you have less exposure to those things that you first started out in, and so now I'm at a point in my life where, you know, I wasn't really doing any of that anymore, right? You know, you're an managing director, you're running a company, you've got P&Ls, and it's 95% of what you do isn't anything like what you started out doing, you know. So, you know, now it's, you know, I guess in a good way, with a bit more of a cushion, I'm able to explore other sustainability, other passion projects outside of that. I think it's really hard for someone coming to Dubai, like you say, at 25, 26, to work in sustainability, you know, without that cushion. I think it's really challenging, and I think it's maybe part of our responsibility as people that have been here a long time and maybe built that cushion is to do more. Actually, I think part of our, you know, if I think about the radio personalities, TV personalities, myself, other executive friends of mine that have left the corporate world and are now trying to do meaningful things in and around COP or in and around their own initiatives.
We need to see more of that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a responsibility, actually. And it's funny, I've not really talked about it with my wife or anyone. It's the first time I'm talking to you about it, but thinking it through with you, you know, that's something we should do more of. Those of us that have reached a point where we're able to maybe for a year or a year and a half do some small commercial projects, right? But then have time to help in other areas, I think is important, I think.
Do you also think that there's an argument to be made that if you are really, really passionate about something, then naturally that will create value somewhere to someone?
Maybe. I think if you're passionate about, my advice is find someone that knows business.
Yeah.
If you don't know business and you're just passionate about something, partner up. I think
with someone that does.
Yeah, a lot of I think the mistake some people make is go alone. Leave corporate world and go alone. I think having a partner is really important. So I think if you're passionate about something, find someone that is less passionate than you, but is highly skilled and highly technical in figuring out how to make things commercially viable. So the business I'm getting involved in is a commercial sustainability project, and the friend of mine that's come up with the idea and has been building it for a while now. It's been out in the market for about a year. Has figured out a way to have people invest in the environment and actually make returns back on it whilst protecting the environment. It's a fascinating business. So that's interesting. It's a good example, I think, of someone that's passionate but has also, got the technical business skills with his partners to actually build a commercial kind of model around it. So yeah, I think knowing your strengths and weaknesses, if you're passionate, if you're passionate about anything though, and you want to do it yourself, I think Stephen Bartlett talks about it. He talks about how he just figured out loads of things he couldn't do and he found people that could do it. Pretty simple idea. Park your ego and just have other people help you do the things that you can't do, whether it's 100%. Building a website or doing a shoot here or setting up an audio engineer to record all this and edit this, whatever it may be. Yeah. And so passion, sustainability, get a team together that have all got complementary skills that you don't have and try and drive it that way.
I mean, 15 years ago, I didn't know how to do any of the things that I sell.
Yeah, it's amazing. Look at your transformation 100%, from Kareem to 100%. This. You're building a great business, a couple 100%. Of great businesses. And, the thing the app we were talking about before, I think is genius. And so I think like, you're a really good embodiment of that. And I think, that's what it's about, right? And as long as you keep that passion, then your teams will look up to you because they'll see that you're so invested and passionate about it. But they'll also see that you're not very good at 5 or 6 things, and they're going to do that for you because you're a good leader, And I think that's. I think this is a really good example of what I'm talking about. Passion and complementary people with skills.
I want to end on an awkward kind of question, put you on the spot a little bit. If you had to play a song for everybody in Duck Life today, if you had to play a song from your favorite playlist right now, and you had to play a song for
everyone's still team are looking at me now.
I think they're finally paying attention now to our conversation.
Yeah.
What would that song be?
Oh, it's a great question. It's a really good question. Let's have a look. What do we think? Yeah.
It's funny because you need it to represent you a little bit and you need us to not judge you.
See, that's it. I'm not worried about you judging. I don't think you're judging. Well, it's Christmas, right?
There you go. I knew you were going to say that. I mean, just don't say Mariah Carey.
No.
We overplayed her this week. Enough.
No. We won't say that. What song would I play you guys? I literally have so many songs that I would want to play you guys. Can I have like a playlist?
Sure. I mean,
can I give you like a play? Can I like create a playlist and like put it as a link?
Actually,
when we put this online for you guys, so I can. Because guys, I've got like loads of songs I want you to listen to from back in the day as well, some old school stuff. So this song is my favourite song of all time. All time. I could listen to this song every day on repeat without any interruptions.
Is it playing?
Yeah. Do you want me to play it now?
Yeah, play it.
All right. Is it?
We're going to play 3 seconds of it. I'm hoping it's connected.
Have we got the Have we got the license?
We'll cut it.
I know I can count on you. Sometimes I feel like saying, Lord, I just don't care. But you've got the love I need to see me through.
Thanks, Mike.
Needs a,
Amazing. I guess we'll
that's
play
Candy
it.
Staton, You've Got the Love. That's the new Voyager remix.
Is it?
Check it. And there's also
Favorite.
Yeah, and there's also the Florence and the Machine version as well. But this song will stay in your hearts forever, guys. Big love to you.
Amazing. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks
Appreciate
a lot, man.
it. Thank you
Thanks.
for the time.
Great to be on.
Finally did this. It's a wrap.
Thank you. Oh man, that was great.
Good.